Before Jack the Ripper terrorized Whitechapel, before Sherlock Holmes patrolled the fog-shrouded streets of Victorian London, there was another name whispered in fear. A man who didn't murder, but mutilated. A shadow who prowled the crowded alleys of 18th century London, not with a knife, but with a pin. He came to be known as the London Monster, and his reign of terror would shake the very soul of Georgian London. London, 1788. The air smelled of coal smoke, horse dung, and human sweat. Gaslight hadn't arrived yet. At night, the streets were lit dimly, if at all. Crime was common. Police, as we know them, didn't exist yet. Instead, night watchmen and mob justice were the law. This was a city of class divide. The rich promenaded in powdered wigs and velvet coats. The poor rotted in slums or swept streets to survive. And into this world, a strange terror entered. A predator who seemed to attack without motive, reason, or pattern. He didn't kill, but his assaults were cruel, targeted, and utterly baffling. It began quietly. A woman named Ann Porter was approached by a well-dressed man. He flirted briefly. As she turned to leave, she screamed. He had stabbed her in the thigh with a sharp object. Other women soon told similar tales. A polite man, a brief exchange, then sudden pain. Sometimes their gowns were sliced open. Other times, pins were driven into their hips or buttocks. Most victims were young, attractive women. Some were even upper class. The monster seemed to strike in crowded areas, yet no one ever saw him clearly. Rumors spread quickly. He carried blades in his coat or spikes in his knees. Others claimed he wore rings fitted with razors. Was this one man, a gang, or something else entirely? By mid-1789, the London Monster was the talk of the city. Pamphlets and newspapers reported the attacks in lurid detail. Some even printed exaggerated illustrations of the monster, grotesque, wild-eyed, deranged. Mothers warned their daughters. Women refused to walk alone. The city began to feel unsafe for anyone. Vigilantes formed in droves. Men patrolled parks, markets, and theaters. Some claimed to catch the monster, only to be proven wrong, sometimes violently. The chaos escalated when false accusations led to innocent men being assaulted by mobs. London wasn't just facing a criminal, it was facing a panic. With more than 50 reported victims, the pressure to catch the monster was immense. A man named John Coleman was dragged before a judge after a woman screamed at him in a market. Another man, with a hunched back, was nearly beaten to death by a group convinced he was the culprit. The monster had become less of a man and more of an idea. Some began to question if he even existed at all. Could these attacks have been imagined? Could this be mass hysteria? But then in 1790, something changed. A man was identified, not just by one woman, but several. His name, Rhynwick Williams. Williams was a 23-year-old Welshman, a perfumer by trade. He lived in London and, by some accounts, had a habit of following women. Ann Porter, one of the monster's earliest victims, claimed to see him again and pointed him out. He was arrested, and within days more women came forward saying they recognized him too. But the evidence was murky. Some said the identifications were unreliable. Others claimed the press had biased the public. Williams insisted he was innocent, and yet he was tried anyway. Rhynwick Williams stood accused not of assault, but of damaging women's clothing. In a strange twist of 18th century law, damaging a woman's garments, especially undergarments, was considered more serious than wounding her flesh. The court heard testimonies from multiple women. Some claimed he had approached them, then jabbed them with something sharp. Others were less certain. Williams maintained his innocence. His defense argued that he was being made a scapegoat, that mass hysteria and media frenzy had created a need for a villain. But the jury didn't buy it. He was found guilty, sentenced to 6 years in prison, and with that, the London monster was declared caught. But many questions remain. Even at the time, doubts lingered. Williams had no prior criminal record. He didn't match every witness description. And strangest of all, some attacks were reported even after his arrest. Had the monster truly been one man? Or had fear created a phantom? Some historians now believe it was a case of moral panic. Anxieties about gender, class, and urban life bubbling to the surface in violent, strange ways. Others believe Williams was guilty, but not the only one. Today, the story of the London monster is almost forgotten, overshadowed by darker, more sensational crimes of the 19th century. But in many ways, he was a prototype, a shadowy figure who inspired terror, obsession, and tabloid frenzy. He showed how fear could infect an entire city, and how, in the absence of certainty, people will create their own monsters.